So today we're going to cover Chapter 11, Section 2. Today we're going to learn how to calculate area of a circle and area of a sector. So first we're going to look at the formula for area of a circle. The area of the circle formula is area is equal to pi times r squared, where r is the radius. Now, before we learned a formula for circumference, and there were two of them. If you were given the diameter, it was just diameter times pi, or if it was a radius, 2 times the radius and then pi. But for area, there's only one formula, and that's pi r squared. So if you're given a diameter, make sure that you are aware of how to convert that to a radius. So for example, diameter is 2 times the radius. Or if I give you a diameter, you can divide it by 2 to make it a radius. So for example, if I tell you the diameter is 10, to turn that to a radius, you just have to divide it by 2. And then the radius would be 5. This is the definition of sector of a circle. So a sector is just the region bounded by 2 radii and their intercepted arc of the circle. So in this particular picture, that orange part of the circle is a sector. Think of it like a piece of pizza. So what we did in 11.1 was we calculated the length if we cut off the crust of the pizza. Now what we're going to do is calculate the whole piece of pizza. And when we look for an area of a sector, it's just going to be a portion or a part of the circle. So there are 2 formulas you can use. You can either choose to create proportions to find area of the sector, or what I prefer is to use this formula. So the area of a sector is just the ratio of the area of the sector of a circle to the area of the whole circle. So it's a portion of the circle. And it's equal to the ratio of the measure of the intercepted arc to 360. So for this lesson, what you're going to do to find the area of the sector, we're going to take the measure of the arc, just like we did in 11.1, divide that by 360, and now instead of multiplying it by the circumference formula, we're going to multiply it by the area. So if they already give you the area calculated, this is how we would set it up. However, if they give us a radius length, then instead of multiplying it by an a, it'll be multiplied by pi r squared. Either one of these equations or formulas will give us the area of the sector. Remember in 11.1, what we had done was measure of the arc over 360, but now instead of multiplying that by an a, we had multiplied it by the circumference. Or if they gave us a diameter, we multiplied it by pi times the diameter. Or if they gave us a radius, we multiplied it by 2 pi r. So this was 11.1. And all 3 of these gave us the length of the arc. Now we're finding area of the sector, and we're using the area formula. Whenever we do any type of area questions, the units are always squared. So when you're doing the homework, if it doesn't tell you to leave it exact or in terms of pi, then just round your answer to the hundredths place, unless they tell you tenths. But anytime they don't specify, you're going to round to the hundredths place. Now, if you get an integer answer, like for example, let's say you did the calculation and your answer was 10. And if it says round to the hundredths place, if you just type 10, it marks it wrong. You have to put 10.00. But you heard what I just said? Okay, so if it says 100 place and you get an integer, you have to put the 0.00 or it marks it wrong. So example 1 wants us to just calculate the area of the circle given a radius length of 4.5. We're going to do it leaving it in terms of pi and using our pi button. On the quiz and in the homework, they're going to ask you to do it both ways. Some of the questions will be in terms of pi, and others will be asking you to use your calculator. So remember, formula for area is pi times radius squared. So I'm going to do area equals pi times 4.5 squared. Once I square 4.5, I get 20.25. Left in terms of pi, that's my answer. And this would be meters squared. But if it says to round to the hundreds place, then I got to actually multiply 20.25 times pi. And that is going to give me 63.61725.124, but rounded to the hundreds place, 63.62 meters squared. So again, in terms of pi, you would leave it something like this. However, using your calculator pi button, dividing 176.7 by pi and then square rooting it, the answer is 7.50 feet. So for this one, all four examples on this slide are all using the same radius length, 3 centimeters. So what I'm going to do for all four of these, the formula is going to be area of the sector is equal to measure of the arc over 360 times pi r squared. So what's going to change each time on this slide is going to be the measure of the arc. So let's go ahead and try the first one. So we've got the measure of the arc to be 50. So I'm going to do 50 over 360. Now on the quiz, you're going to leave your answer in terms of pi, just like I'm doing right now. So go ahead and 50 over 360 times pi r squared. So I'm going to simplify that fraction first. I could just get rid of the zeros and it reduces to 5 over 36. And then I can square the 3 and it becomes 9. Now, if you choose to multiply first, this would become 45 pi over 36. Now you still got to go back and reduce it. I can divide them both by 9. And then this simplifies to 5 over 4 pi centimeters squared. What I would prefer to do is right here at this step, when you're at 5 over 36 times 9 pi, I'm going to simplify diagonally, make that a 1, make that a 4, and then it goes right to your answer. Same radius length, but now the measure of the arc is 20. So I'm going to do 20 over 360 is equal to pi r squared. So I'm just going to put 9 pi here because 3 squared is 9. I'm going to simplify the fraction first. If you want to just get rid of the zeros first, and then now simplify 2 over 36. This is going to give me 1 over 18 times 9 pi. And now you can either choose to multiply it and get 9 pi over 18, and then simplify it, and that'll be pi over 2. Or you could also say 1/2 pi, and these are both centimeters squared. Or right here, if you prefer to have simplified before you multiplied, this would have become a 2 and a 1, and then it still goes right to the same answer. So you can either write it as 1/2 pi or pi over 2. For part C, same radius. So for part C, 140 over 360 times pi r squared, and again, my radius was 3, so 9 pi. I'm going to simplify my fraction. Again, I like to get rid of the zeros. And then 14 over 36, I can divide them both by 2. And then this becomes 7 over 18 times 9 pi. So if you don't like to simplify before you multiply, get 63 pi over 18. And then you got to simplify. Divide them both by 9. And then it becomes 7 pi over 2 centimeters squared. Now, if you like to simplify before you multiply, which you really need to get into that habit, this becomes a 1, this becomes a 2, and then it goes right to your answer. 210. So for part D, 210 over 360 times pi r squared. And again, I can simplify my fraction, get rid of the zeros, and now I have 21 over 36 times 9 pi. And you can either choose to simplify diagonally or just simplify that fraction. If I simplify the fraction, I can divide them both by 3, and it becomes 7 over 12 times 9 pi. And then either choose to multiply it as is and then simplify, which would divide them both by 3, 21 over 4 pi centimeters squared, or simplify before you multiply. This becomes a 4, this becomes a 3, and then it still goes to 21 over 4 pi. Do area of the whole sector. So this whole thing, and then I'm going to subtract out the triangle, and then what'll be left is what I'm looking for. So let me subtract out area of the triangle. So area of the sector, same formula we've been doing, measure of the arc over 360 times pi r squared. That's my area of the sector. Now I'm going to work on the triangle in a minute because we got to bring back our special right triangles. So for this one, I could simplify my fraction. 12 over 36 simplifies to 1/3. And then 6 squared, this is 36 pi. So now at this point, you could either multiply it as is or simplify diagonally. 36 pi over 3, which just simplifies to 12 pi. This is the area of the entire sector, that whole piece of pizza. So now what I need to do is find the area of this triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out so you can see it a little bit better. So let me just redraw the red triangle. This has got 120 degrees. And this is, if you notice, an isosceles triangle. Soon as I draw in this altitude, this height or this altitude becomes a perpendicular bisector. This is all prior knowledge. So then now, this is now 60 degrees up here and 60 degrees up here. So now what I'm going to focus on is a 30, 60, 90 right triangle. So now this is 30, this is 30, but I'm only going to work with just this one side here. So now, the hypotenuse, remember what you've memorized from before in your 30, 60, 90, that this is 2a, the side across from the right angle. This was a, and this was a square root 3. So since this is equal to 2a, I need to solve for a, divide by 2, and a equals 3, which is this side over here, which is my height of the triangle. This side over here is going to be half of the base. So, and this is supposed to be whatever A is with square root 3 behind it. So this is actually going to be 3 square root 3. So this side is 3 square root 3, so is this. So to find the whole base, I add those, and the base of the triangle is 6 square root 3. My height here is just the 3. So remember, for area of a triangle, it's going to be 1/2 base times height, or base times height divided by 2. You can do it either way. So my base is 6 square root 3, my height is 3, and then divide by 2. So area is going to be 18 square root 3 over 2, which the area of the triangle is now going to be 9 square root 3. So it said leave your answer in terms of pi. So remember, your area of your sector was the 12 pi. And now I'm going to subtract out the triangle. So 12 pi minus 9 square root 3. And this is units squared. That would be left in terms of pi. Now, if it said round to the hundreds place, then I'd have to figure out what 12 pi is. And 12 times pi is going to be 37.6911184. And then subtract out the 9 square root 3, which is 15.58845,727. Subtract that, 22.11. So this is using your pi button and your square root button. But the instruction said leave in terms of pi.